Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Waking Up with Richie. I found some really interesting events going on in the world that I want to share with you guys, so without further ado, let's hop right into it. First, I gotta give a shout out to my very much appreciated Patreon members. Thank you guys so much for your support over there on Patreon. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody who supports my Patreon. It really means the world to me. So I do really quickly want to apologize for not posting this video on Sunday. Some things came up and I'm still working out the kinks in my schedule and trying to make sure that I can get my videos posted when I say I'm going to post them. It's not as easy as you might think it is, but I'm definitely improving and working on my schedule each and every day. So I just want to say thank you guys for your patience. But let's go ahead and get into the first article that I found. Now, some of you may be rock and roll fans. I hope so. I hope there's at least a few out there. But this next article has to do with none other than Ozzy Osbourne. So, unfortunately, Ozzy Osbourne has recently announced that he will be canceling all of his tours, not even until further notice, but permanently. He's suffering from a spinal injury right now, and he struggled with many ailments over the years. So he's definitely had a colorful life, as you can probably guess. And so Ozzy Osbourne was actually diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2003 after a major ATV accident. He almost passed away when his ATV flipped over on top of him while he was riding around his London estate. Now, I've been in my own ATV accident before. It wasn't major, but it was definitely scary. And really quickly, I'm not going to make this about me, but I was riding my four-wheeler in my backyard and I wanted to see how fast it could go. And of course, all four-wheelers that you buy legally have a governor on them. So they can go a lot faster than they're set to go, but I found out the hard way that my four-wheeler topped out at 55 miles an hour. And I was going 55 miles an hour on uneven farmland in my backyard, and eventually I ran out of space, I ran out of distance that I needed to stop, and I just locked up the brakes and slid right into a barbed wire fence. But I'm okay, I'm here. But let's get back into Ozzy Osbourne. So Ozzy Osbourne also had a bad fall in 2019 where he had surgery on his neck, which then disturbed his nerves. And he's been dealing with the nerve issues even up to this date. His wife Sharon Osbourne said in an interview, the screws had come loose and were chipping away at the bone, and the debris had lodged under his spine. So I can only imagine how excruciating that must be, but I'm definitely sending out some prayers to Ozzy Osbourne for this because he admitted his singing voice is fine, but he is physically weak after 3 operations. He also said, never would I have imagined that my touring days would have ended this way. My team is currently coming up with ideas where I will be able to perform without having to travel from city to city and country to country. So you'll still have the opportunity to go see Ozzy Osbourne of Black Sabbath live, but he won't be touring, all across the globe like he once did. So sending you positive vibes, Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, that is just really tragic to hear, and it's nice to hear that you're still going to continue on with your career rather than just walking away from it as a whole. So, what do you guys think about that? Were you ever fans of Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath? I think I know one of their songs, and it's the Iron Man song. Is that even the title of it? How embarrassing of me. I also remember his reality TV show, which was on E! Network, I believe, and I used to watch that when I was growing up because it was on TV a lot. And then I think we've all heard of that time where Ozzy Osbourne bit the head of a bat on stage, and that was definitely one for the books. So thank you, Ozzy Osbourne, for the doors that you've opened for future rock and rollers, and I'm wishing you a speedy recovery on that one. Okay, so let's move on to the next event that I found. So the next one stood out to me because it's part of a tradition that is really popular on the East Coast and where I grew up. Now, if you've never heard of Punxsutawney Phil, he's a groundhog that is widely known. He's very famous. And basically, his purpose is to predict whether or not spring will come early or there will be 6 more weeks of winter. And that's why we celebrate Groundhog Day. So each and every year, there's a celebration in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where people gather at Gobbler's Knob every year to learn of the prediction. So basically, everybody just gathers around in this park in the center of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So if he sees his shadow, there will be 6 more weeks of winter. If he doesn't, spring comes early. So growing up in Maryland, I always counted on Punxsutawney Phil to decide whether or not winter was done with or spring was coming early, because winter is just so almost unbearable sometimes in Maryland, and it's just cloudy all the time, and you just get to a point, especially right now in the year, where you're just ready for sunshine and warm weather. So the annual event originated from a German legend about a furry rodent. According to records, Phil has predicted winter over 100 times. So, I mean, give or take, that is sort of accurate, right? New York's Staten Island Chuck made his prediction for an early spring the same day, which is the opposite prediction. I don't even know if I said yet, but he predicted 6 more weeks of winter, Punxsutawney Phil, this year on Groundhog Day. But the Chuck gopher in New York predicted early spring, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see which one is more accurate. I wanted to talk about that. I know some of you are probably like, oh, is that even newsworthy? And to me it is, because like I said, that event always meant something to me growing up in Maryland. You really don't hear about those superstitions out here on the West Coast. I think that there's just a lot more history, European history on the East Coast, so you get a lot of those holidays and celebrations that you really don't hear about out here. But I'll always pay attention to Punxsutawney Phil's prediction. You guys have to let me know if you're on the East Coast, if you think that winter's gonna last 6 more weeks or if spring's gonna come early. What's your personal prediction? Alright, so let's move on to the last and final event that I found for you guys. Now, on my first episode, not my very first, but on my previous Waking Up with Richie video, I talked about the Guinness Book of World Records naming the oldest dog as Spike, who was a Chihuahua, and he was 23 years old, which was already just mind-blowing, because I've never heard of a dog older than 14 or 15, maybe 16, if you're lucky, but you just really don't hear of dogs living that long until I saw this article. So, listen to this. Guinness World Records names a new world's oldest dog. So Bobby is the oldest dog ever at 30 years old and 266 days. So almost 31. Bobby has broken a century-old record set by Australian cattle dog Bluey. Bluey lived 29 years and 5 months from 1910 to 1939. So the record that Spike, the little Chihuahua, broke was the world's oldest current living dog. Now, Bluey lived 29 years and 5 months, so he was considerably older than Spike. Spike is still living to the best of my knowledge, but Bluey lived from 1910 to 1939. Bobby is a purebred Raffiero de Alentejo breed of livestock guardian dog with the life expectancy of 12 to 14 years. Now, he lived his entire life with a family in the village of Conqueiros, Leiria, Portugal. He was born one of several puppies in a building on the family's property in 1992. 1992. It's just crazy that a dog has seen more than I have, you know? Like, this dog is probably smarter than me. I wouldn't doubt it. Definitely more wise than me. And probably wouldn't put up with anybody's BS. Bobby has always eaten human food rather than standard dog food, according to a family member. I thought that was really interesting to include because some people swear by the fact that dogs are not meant to eat dog food. And some people think that feeding their dogs human food is not good for them and, can cause problems later on down the line. So I thought that was really interesting because 30 years, I mean, that's unheard of, 30 years. And the dog has basically living off the land, played outside whenever he wanted to, had just so much land to run and explore, and I'm sure he probably hunted a little bit too, and he also worked protecting the family's livestock. So I overall just think that's a very positive story to hear. Your dog might be able to live longer than you initially thought it was going to be with you. So if Lucky lives for 30 years, that would be just imagining having Lucky around my 50s. It's a lot to take in. That would definitely be like a life partner at that point. And I love Lucky, but I don't know if I was prepared for that possibility of him living that long, because he is a cattle dog. He's mixed with an American pit bull and a cattle dog. I'll put a picture of him right here if you guys don't know what he looks like. But he's such a good boy. But 30 years? Now, it didn't say anything in this article whether or not there was any health issues with Bobby, but who knows? Because a lot of the issues that older dogs tend to acquire involve like arthritis and gastrointestinal issues and a lot of blindness. That happens a lot. I know Spike, the previous oldest living dog, he definitely had 2 cataracts in his eyes, meaning he was basically blind. And it's up to the owner at that point whether or not the quality of life is up to par with how they want their dog to keep on trucking. But overall, I just think this is a really heartfelt story, and it's just cute that a dog can live that long, and I'm sure he's living his best life. But that was this week's episode of Waking Up with Richie. What did you guys think about these current events? Did you enjoy them? But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, morning, or night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.